Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our Ecclesiastical Law Society bite-size presentation. Today, we're looking at the question, what is a church warden? And to talk to us today about that topic, I can introduce Joseph Goswell. Joseph, you are a graduate of the Cardiff LLM in Canon Law, and you're also Registrar of the Diocese of Gambia, but you're here today to talk in your capacity as church warden. Can you remind me which parish that you're church warden of, Joseph?
Thank you, Russell. I'm a Churchwarden of St Michael's, Croydon, Diocese of Southwark.
Fantastic. And how long have you been a church warden there, Joseph?
I have been a Churchwarden since 2019, April 2019.
So you've got quite a bit of experience of that. So that's great. And we're going to talk now for about 15 minutes or so, and I'll ask you a few questions about being a church warden. And I suppose as we do that, it might be worth saying that there'll be some of the things I'm sure that you talk about which are common to all church wardens because they're in the Church of England's law, the Church Wardens Measure 2001, or in the canons. I've got it open here.
Precisely. Canon
E1.
E1.
Exactly.
Canon
And then there are
F.
other things, aren't there, which vary from parish to parish according to custom. So that'll be really interesting to hear. I wonder if you can kick off, Joseph, by telling us what is a church warden?
A church warden is a lay officer of the bishop who works closely with the incumbent to foster better relations within the laity and the incumbent, and in so doing, to make sure the church becomes a very suitable place of worship in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the way the church is being managed. So you are the most senior member of the laity in the parish or in the church itself.
Sure. So it's a leadership role among the laity and drawn from the congregation, and a volunteer role.
Yes. So you are elected every year.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing you do when you have the we have our AGM is we're supposed to have the annual parish meeting. And the annual parish meeting, according to the Church Wardens Measure 2001, you have to have the annual general meeting by the 31st of May.
Mm-hmm.
So by the 31st of May, you would have to have an election of which you will select or elect 2 persons to be elected as church warden. And for you to be a church warden, you need to be on the electoral roll. You need to be 21 years, and you need to be a communicant. And you must not be disqualified. When I say you not be disqualified, is that this is going to be my 6th year.
Mm-hmm.
So come 2025, I'll be disqualified from contesting if my mathematics are right. You
right.
can
So
only
that's
be,
that's the standard practice then, isn't it? That unless a particular parish has changed the rules in that parish, that there is that term limit.
Yes.
How long you can serve in successive years.
However, apart from being disqualified by virtue of tenure, you could be disqualified if you're disqualified to be a trustee in a charity, or if you are disqualified by an order made as a result of a charity. So the Charities Act 1993 plays into effect.
Mm-hmm.
Lastly, you could be disqualified if you're part of the groups that are prohibited because of the Safeguarding Vulnerable Groups Act 2006.
Right. And you mentioned that you're elected as a church warden I mean, it varies by parish, but in a lot of parishes, I don't know how it is in your parish, elections don't necessarily happen in the way that they're happening in the world today, as we, where it's contested with multiple candidates for a role. In practice, if there are two church warden positions, as you say, and if two people are nominated, then they are elected without it being contested and having to have a vote. And would you say that that's quite common way that it happens?
Well, there are some instances where it could vary, because there was a situation where if you go through the measure itself, section 4.6, clearly states that there are times when if you have 3 candidates, one of them will be appointed. The incumbent has the power to appoint one of the candidates, and then the other candidate, he will invite him to an election whereby he will make a statement. And it must have been that something must have happened in the past which has necessitated him to make such statement, to say that we have Joe Blocks here who is contesting. However, I have to make a statement that I will not be comfortable to work with him as a church warden. And what will happen is that there will be an election between Joe Blocks and the other candidate. And what will happen, and in most cases, the other candidate normally wins because he's got the backing of the incumbent. I've witnessed it. I had a test case of which I was asked to give an opinion on it, on whether it was a fair system, but it was something which has been drafted in the laws, which we could not dispute. All we had to look at is whether the formalities were followed, because it was already written in snow that this was the law.
Sure, absolutely, because on the face of it, it seems a bit odd interfering in an election, but as you say, it is the law. And then once, by one means or another, once the church wardens are elected and in place, then what do they go through in terms of being appointed? How do you actually then take up the office?
Right. According to the canons, it states that, I think Canon E states that you have to be, by July 31st, you should be appointed by the bishop or by his substitute. And in this case, it's always done through the archdeacon, where you will go through an induction and visitation, and you take an oath, swear that you will do your job according to law. So it's that big grand finale that we have in the archdeaconry, where the archdeacon comes in and all the church wardens from the various parishes will meet together, and we are all sworn in. Now, during COVID, this was not possible at one particular year. And what happened is the swearing in took place in the parish, and the incumbent represented the archdeacon, and we were sworn into office. So you get elected, deadline 31st of May, by 31st of July, you're sworn in as a church warden.
Fantastic. So we thought about the qualifications, the tenure, the process of election and appointment. And then how about the actual responsibilities? Once you are in post as church warden, what do you actually do, Joseph?
Well, actually, I will take it in 2 slots. The first thing you do as a church warden, you hand over possession of the keys of the church, so you have everything. You know where all the necessary materials are, in case there's something that happens that you need to take charge of. So that was the first thing they gave me. They gave me a bunch of keys, quite heavy. Oh, this is too much. But that was the first bit. And then the second bit, we start going through the documentation. You go to look at the logbook, you look at the terrier to see an inventory of all what is in place in the church, because that information will be required sometime next 12 months when you will be asked by the archdeacon or a representative of the archdeacon to go through the documents and the articles of inquiry, what you've done with regards to the church and the fabric of the building. And here again, we are referring to two pieces of legislation: the Ecclesiastical Jurisdiction Care of the Churches Measure 2018, and to be precise, section 48, 49, and section 50 comes into play. Those are things that we have to do. We are custodian of all those important documents. If there are other things that you have to do in the church, in the canons again talk about canon B, B17 talks about the bread and the ornaments and the movable items and the provision of bread and wine in the church. You custody for that. You also have allocation of seats. That's part of canon E7. And then you got the duty to seek for a faculty. That's also in canon F15, if I'm right. So there's quite a lot of work you have to do with regards to church as a church warden. First thing in the morning when you come in, you have to, well, put it this way, when you're a church warden, you have to be in the church every Sunday. Yes, you have to be there every Sunday, just in case there's certain things that needs to be looked at, you will be contacted. You'll be the incumbent or the assistant curate's right hand person. If there's anything, they will contact you to say, oh, we need this, you have to do that. And also, if there are any developments within the ministry, they will let us know. If the vicar is on leave or is going on a sabbatical, we will be notified, and we'll work on a plan so that we make sure that if there are any replacements, people that are going to support us during that short period, we will be notified and we will make proper arrangements.
And it's a big job, isn't it? I mean, I know you've only just scratched the surface so far, and it is an important leadership role and a significant responsibility, but also it's worth saying, isn't it, that you're not the only lay officer in the church. So you have a particular role, I would say, don't you, alongside sidesmen on the one hand,
yes,
and alongside fellow PCC members on the other. Would you like to talk about sidesmen and PCC?
Yes, size persons, they normally assist us with guiding people into the church, responsible for collecting the offertory and handing over the offertory plate to us, and we do the counting. So they're very responsive. We call them welcomers, because when you come into the church, the first thing you normally find out is the sides person, and if we are not there or we're a bit late, they will direct the way they have the seats and all that stuff. But their role is basically to assist us to make sure things are done smoothly on a Sunday. If you come to church without a sides person, then definitely you're going to have a big hurdle to overcome, because if it's a big event, you need sides persons to assist you. Also, we have the safeguarding officer. It plays a very important role. I think, in fairness, the safeguarding officer is our watchdog, because they look up to us and also make sure that we're complying with the safeguarding rules. And if there's anything that we think warrants their attention, we make sure they're known about it ASAP. We also liaise with the sacristies. So if they've got any servers in, I will make sure anybody that wants to get involved in the serving team, they normally contact us and we will just hand it over to the sacristan. So we have that interlink with the laity to a very high degree.
That's good to hear, because if it, as you say, if it were a case of churchwardens not having other lay officers to work with, it would be a huge responsibility. And you're ex officio on the PCC, aren't
yes,
you,
I am an
Joseph,
ex-official
as long as
member.
yeah,
I'm an ex-official member of the PCC.
yeah.
And we made an arrangement whereby I'm not only an ex-official member, I'm also the vice chair of the PCC.
Mm-hmm.
So what we've done is that the PCC, the vice chair will come from the laity, and it's always the churchwarden, one of the churchwarden. Also, because of making sure that things are done properly, the treasurer is normally a churchwarden member, or the secretary could also be a churchwarden member. So we got that link involved, whereby minutes have been done, sent to the incumbent, agrees on it, and then it's circulated. So we make,
yeah, and it's really interesting to hear that, because as the law of the Church of England is really very flexible, isn't it? So these traditions are able to develop in different parishes, what work in different parishes in terms of there are certain things that always belong to churchwardens, and others which might be shared out differently in different places as works best. We're sort of getting to the end of the time. Are there any last particular responsibilities you want to mention?
From what we normally do is that we have some charities that we've set up, of which two of the churchwardens are ex-official members. And we call it the Good Shepherd's Trust, which it's been set up for over 50 years now, of which two of the churchwardens are ex-official members. So we are in that, we're trustees, and we are governed by the Charities Commission. And for us to take up our role, because of the issue of safeguarding, we have to undergo a training. Very important that everybody we have to do a training on safeguarding. And if in the event somebody fails, then you will have to disqualify yourself. Yes. Yeah.
Well, fantastic. Well, it's been really interesting, Joseph, and you've given an insight into the huge importance of this role in the Church of England. And I want to finish by saying thank you to you and to all churchwardens. Although I'm not an incumbent at the moment, I'm involved with numerous churches around, many of whom are in vacancies, and churchwardens have a hugely important role in vacancies. But also when I've been an incumbent in the past, that relationship between clergy and churchwardens is so important, and having good churchwardens in place really makes a difference for the health and the vitality and the spirituality of churches. And it's so good and helpful for clergy, for incumbents, to have those churchwarden colleagues to rely on. Really is an important relationship, and I've been so blessed by great churchwardens over the years, and I would want to encourage anyone who's thinking about standing for churchwarden to pray about it, talk over it with their incumbent. Is it, Joseph, so my last question to you, is it something that you enjoy and fulfills you in your Christian life?
Oh yes, it is something which has boosted my fellowship with the church. When I was asked to take up this role, I felt, oh, this is quite heavy. Well, it's still heavy, but there's a lot of things you learn from it, from finance, from management, and from even looking at the fabric of the building. That's why we have this quinquennial report that we do every 5 years. And also, every year when we go to the PCC or the AGM, we have to give a fabric report. So it makes us look into the status of the building, where we could make some remedial works, or what we can do with the fire safety. There's a lot of things I learned from it, which I don't think I would have taken it anywhere else. But it's been done voluntary, I'm taking my time. I've gone through a lot of it, and it's just enhanced my love for my church, the love for Christianity.
Well, that's great to hear, Joseph, and thank you for your time and your words this evening.
Yes,
I'm going to
you're welcome.
stop the recording now, and thank you again.
You're welcome.